Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Tina. Really lovely to be talking to you and see you on this amazing day.
Sunny day in lockdown. So,
Absolutely.
so the doorbell just rang, and you had to go off. What was that all about?
Well, so I'd forgotten I had ordered some Amazon deliveries, printer ink, etc. And as I got to the door, it was quite funny. The guy who delivered the stuff was leaving. And obviously he was social distancing anyway, but he looked like he was in quite a hurry. And just because it's the way I live, I called him and said, "Can you come back?" Because he'd moved quite a distance away. So he began to come back looking puzzled, but he was still quite a distance. And I just said to him, kind of had to shout, "Has anyone told you Jesus really loves you?" And he looked a
Brilliant.
little bit puzzled. And he looked so puzzled, in fact, I shouted out to him, I said, "Do you know who Jesus is?" And he sort of said sorry in a heavy accent. So I don't know whether he understood me or not, but you know
Oh,
what?
good for you. Good for you. Finding people to bless with that message, even in lockdown. And I think
Absolutely.
that's such a great introduction to you on this call. Guys, this is Jennifer. This is a friend of mine and somebody who is also a destiny coach. Can I say that?
Yeah.
And lots of other things. Jennifer has I'll just say what I know of you. I know that you've been a solicitor, a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what you've been in your past career. What would it have been?
Yes, I was a solicitor, also a lawyer, same thing.
Okay.
I working as a commercial stroke corporate lawyer. I worked in a big city law firm, so we worked for big corporations always. And then prior to that, I trained as a classical violinist, which is
Wow.
a completely different road, obviously, and didn't carry on with the professional career simply because I injured my left hand, which you kind of need to play the violin. But the
Okay.
music led me into law, or one after the other, and then into ministry. I've been in leadership in the church since then.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I know of Jennifer is she's been in leadership in a church, and that's been for quite a few years, hasn't it? And then God's sort of like taking you into a different season. And I know you came and trained with us to be a coach. But anyway, I wanted to introduce you. Jennifer is someone that I know who is incredibly strong in the Lord. She loves Jesus so much. She listens to him and she hears him. She is very prophetic. And during the training weekends that we went through and got to know you more, there was just so many incredible encounters that you were going through, Jennifer, that we all ended up enjoying with you. Sort of open visions and all kinds of things happening. So that's just a little bit of an introduction of Jennifer. But we thought it'd be really fun today to just talk about the subject of purpose and the pandemic. So I just thought you'd have some really good insight into that topic and we could just have fun chatting about it.
Great.
So Jennifer, I was thinking about this and I thought something you said yesterday about, you know, you distinguish, there's different groups of people, you know, there's people that already feel that they know their purpose. And then there's people, obviously, I thought, and you were talking about what the pandemic and this season of lockdown, you know, is like for them. And then I thought about it and I thought, yeah, and there's probably equally just as many, probably if not more people who don't know their purpose. And then I've identified this third category of people who I think is people that perhaps thought they knew their purpose and now it's all up in the air and they don't know what on earth to think. And I guess all the categories of people at this time really want to know more about their purpose. I mean, that's something we get all the time, don't we, through destiny coaching and coaching people. Everybody wants to hear God, you know, to know, like every Christian wants to be able to hear God speaking, confirming, guiding in their purpose. And everybody, I think, just wants that feeling of feeling sure about knowing and feeling excited about it. So I thought it might be fun just to talk about how some of that might be possible What do you think? Or what kind of thoughts have you had around this topic of purpose and pandemic?
Well, I think the categories you've broken down there, the three categories, are really sort of spot on. The ones who know what their purpose is, the ones who don't, and then the ones who thought they did, as you say, and rethinking it. And I would say one of the things I've noticed with existing clients, both
coaching clients,
yes, coaching clients, yeah, the Christians and the non-Christians, it's really interesting. The pandemic has stirred up fear in both categories. Some Christians have dealt well with the fear, some haven't so much. And but for both categories, they're all saying, what do I do right now? So even if they have known their purpose, there's a whole question about, actually, is it the same? Is it different? Is the world so different now that what I thought was my purpose isn't? So there's a lot of revisiting going on. And one example I can think of is a non-Christian client, and it's really a privilege to walk with this person through this scenario. So she has a business. I've been coaching her for a while, and it's been going really well, and she's been moving along at a great pace. And this whole pandemic happened, and it has a massive effect on her business and actually the sector she works in. And understandably, she's saying, will the sector even exist after the pandemic? So that's someone who, maybe had a clear sense of purpose in terms of her business. She didn't come and ask me, is this my life purpose? That wasn't her brief to me, if you like. But what I'm finding is, for both Christians and non-Christians, it's a question of, how do we regroup in this season? Because nobody was expecting this to come. And even if life purpose remains clear and remains unchanged, which I think generally it probably does, it may look different in the future to what people thought. And so it's just helping them through that process and not feeling like this is a disaster or a wasted season, but actually what can they do now to get ready for launching themselves or moving forward in life purpose, ahead.
It's probably worth giving a bit of a definition of what we mean by life purpose, because I don't know about your experience with clients, but my experience of clients is that, or people in general, is they think that purpose and calling is a job.
Yeah.
So you've obviously been through the whole destiny coaching approach to defining purpose, and you've obviously been in leadership in a church, and you've obviously got a way of defining what you think it is. So how would you explain that to people, how you would define life purpose?
That's a great question, because that's really at the heart of many people's fundamental questions. So I would say to people, life purpose is something that one feels almost one was born for. It's really at a deep level at the core of our being. We can use other language, like it's the thing God created me for, or it can be a number of things, but it's the things God created me for. It's what makes you fly and thrive and really come alive. So I know I've used a few different, pieces of language, but what would you say, Tina?
Well, I agree with all of that. I think that's what we're all about at Destiny Coaching, isn't it? Your passion is your purpose, and God's not going to create you to do something in the world and contribute in the world in something that doesn't fully bring you alive, doesn't use your strengths, your giftings, doesn't really make your heart sing and make you happy. Yeah. So I agree with that. But I think the thing that I find that people find really helpful to understand is, like you were talking about the client, which I think is probably a story that's quite common now. Is the sector of business that they're in going to exist after the pandemic? And I think the great thing and the encouraging thing to think about with our purposes is that our purpose is applicable in many different sectors and many different contexts. It's not just dependent on, I don't know, say you're a teacher, you know, you can still live out your purpose as a teacher in many different sectors and many different roles even. You know, so it's you know, the gift of the teaching is the gift, not the purpose.
Yeah.
I think the purpose is something much higher than that, which actually, as we do in Destiny Coaching, it includes, you know, knowing what God's formed in you, what, you know, what message you have to give the world, what your journey with God, your testimony with God, all the things you carry in a spiritual sense, as well as what you carry in a kind of a more traditional, what coaching looks at, the kind of, you know, I'm good at teaching and I'm good at this. Gosh, do you remember when you were younger, I don't know whether you ever went for career guidance in school, but they sort of plug in everything and then the computer cranks and then it's like, beep, beep, this is what you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
To experience that.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, all these things come out that some of them might be of interest, but many don't feel right.
No, I mean, look at you. What a great testimony. You know, a classical violinist could have been your journey, right, in terms of a vocation.
Yeah.
Then you went into law, then you went into church ministry, and hey, who knows what's next, hey?
Yeah.
How would you explain that to people? Like, you've obviously experienced different sectors and different contexts to operate in, but I would say you're probably someone that is, like myself, you know, is pretty sure of your purpose. I mean, obviously you don't know the whole picture and you're not 100% crystal clear in everything because it's evolving and growing and we expect more from God. But how would you explain to people that you are sure of your purpose and yet you're happy to operate in all these different sectors? How does that work?
Yes, I mean, it's quite a mix, isn't it? How does it work? Well, I guess I'm clearly creative innately at a fundamental level, and that is a God-given gift. So I was a violinist, and it was classical music was my passion, and I just wanted to be a professional violinist, and was clearly driven in that direction. But I love language, I love expression. So, and I realize I'm talking about the doing things now rather than purpose. And so when music didn't work out, law wasn't the kind of extraordinary leap that perhaps people might think. And there was a kind of a flow on for music. And I guess maybe there is the link because it's communication, isn't it? So music at a deep level is communicating, you know, the beautiful. And where does beauty come from? The first art exhibition, the Lord showed me this recently. I was absolutely amazed. It was a revelation moment. He asked me a question, said, who set up the first art exhibition ever? And I had no idea. I mean, God would know I had no idea. And he said, it was me. When I created the universe, I displayed my glory and my beauty. So, wow. So going back to my life purpose, music is a display, it's communicating God's glory. Moving into law, I guess, is again language, communication in a very reasoned and structured way, which is also wonderful. It's how God's a lawyer. Jesus is our advocate. The Levites were musicians and they were also experts in the law. So what a beautiful blend, which I guess then takes me on to the ministry. Yeah, somebody told me that one time. I'm like, I didn't think of it like that, but yes, they were. And I guess having been through the Destiny coaching myself, what was so helpful was I found language to succinctly describe my own purpose, which is, in a nutshell, saying to people, communicating, there's only one decision they have to make in life, and that's whether they want to follow Jesus or don't. And the other element is he is the only source of the measure of joy and hope and strength we all need to really walk through the hardships of life well. And it was just amazing to get to the point of being able to articulate it in a sort of reasonably succinct way and look back and see everything I've done has been about communicating and training in communicating something of God, and to take me to this point.
Wow, that's really good. So it's like it, because I know you, and I know that when you were in church leadership, you preached regularly, and I know you've got so many messages inside you, but isn't that incredible that you've kind of found your overarching sort of message of which all the other ones sit under, and the whole sort of purpose of all you're doing as well, and what you know you've got to bring the world. So how does it feel to have that kind of language and that overarching kind of theme? How does that help you, say, in this time, in the pandemic, when everything's so uncertain and you don't know what's next?
Well, first of all, it's really liberating for me personally, and I see that with clients, and I'm sure you know that, Tina. Just having language to put to really who you are at a deep, deep level is amazing. Because many people spend their whole lives sort of fumbling around in the dark, not knowing. So that's the first thing. And in terms of the pandemic, do you know, it just sharpens beautifully that message for me. So just as, I mean, we were laughing when I told you the story about the chap at the door and me shouting out to him, do you know Jesus? Or Jesus loves you. But the pandemic has brought a wonderful sense of urgency, and actually the picture the Lord's given me is of squeezing, and just squeezing the people who love him to get them to release this, the truth that we have. And now in the serious times we're in some ways, the times when the world is frightened, perhaps asking really fundamental questions, now more than ever, everybody needs to know that Jesus loves them. And I've noticed that I just don't care what kind of reaction I get. So if you have time for another little story, which was just profoundly moving. I was on the phone earlier in the week renewing my car breakdown cover. And bear in mind, I want to take every opportunity. So the lady is processing my payment. And while she's doing that, I asked the Lord if there's anything he'd like to say to her. The worst she can do is put the phone down on me, I guess. I know the calls are being recorded, so I do want to be sensitive to that. I don't want to make things difficult. Anyway, at the end of the call, the lady said, is there anything else I can help you with? As they do. And I said, no, you've been wonderful, but can I tell you something? So quite quickly, I described the picture I had. And there is a moment of, oh my goodness, how is this going to land? And before I finished, she said, with a totally different tone in her voice, thank you so much. That means so much because, and she just explained why the picture I'd had made perfect sense to her. And for the first time ever, because I do this a lot on the telephone, but for the first time ever, she asked me if she could keep in touch with me on my mobile personally, and I said yes. 20 minutes after the phone call, she sent me a text just saying, you know, I have no idea, you have no idea, Jennifer, how significant the timing of that word was. And she nearly didn't ring me because when she got my details, they were very sketchy. So all to say, God is so deliberate and intentional, and I could very easily not have done that. So I guess the message in the pandemic for me in terms of my life purpose is God is squeezing me to extract the orange juice of the beautiful message I have, and I just have to do it now. I have to get over myself. I have to not care if people are rude. And most of the time people are undone. So it's just wonderful.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. And how would you, so I'd love to do that more often, but I think the theme of what you're saying is something that's actually happening to a lot of people. There's a lot of people that have had things on their heart for a long time, and it's like almost this season is like squeezing it to a point where they just are bursting, that they just want to get it done. Yeah. It's almost like this season has taken away a lot of fear and a lot of reticence, which actually, there's more millionaires born in times of recession than any other time. More people that become millionaires, not born, become millionaires.
Yeah.
And I think the reason is because people are willing to take risks now.
Yeah.
And more than they would be in normal times, because they might be desperate, because there's no other options, or because there's such, the pandemic's such a huge thing that, what they're wanting to do doesn't actually seem so huge anymore against it, does it?
Yeah.
And also there's so much more need. I mean, people need help, support, encouragement, hope, don't they? So
absolutely. It's just an open door of invitation for believers, isn't it? To just go right in boldly with all the things we uniquely bring in terms of strength and courage and joy. I mean, gosh, how many people need joy? And I've seen that with coaches, both Christians and non-Christians who have just come very flat to sessions, and it quite amazed me. I was challenging a coachee a little bit about her view. Yes, that's good. About her view of this season, which was just get through it, just survival. But there was no in her concept of the season. And we talked about her making some really good positive declarations for the season, and I could see she just was locked in fear and just wanted to pull the duvet over her. And I wouldn't usually do this, but we got chatting at the end, and I said to her, I really believe in the power of words. I love preaching, I love teaching, because we know that words are life. And I was just trying to encourage her to formulate some declarations. And because she wasn't getting it, I said, do you know what? I'm going to send you some things I say a lot. And I've actually written out some things for this season that I have decided are going to frame my season. So I emailed them to her, and she was really floored by the choice that I was choosing to make. And I've actually brought one I got a piece of paper here with a few of them so I wouldn't forget. But what it showed me was that people in the world, and Christians and non-Christians, we don't always believe what we say we believe.
Yeah.
And we really need to, bring people up, help people to up their game, Christians and non-Christians. And there is going to be, I believe prophetically, there's going to be a separation, if we don't choose otherwise, of those who want to really up their game and be part of the bride that's ready, and those who don't. So, and I've moved off, so I'll just go back to the declaration. I said to this girl, and one of my declarations was, I am the most powerful person in my life, and I have decided that this season will be one of huge personal growth, development, and fruitfulness, because all of that is a matter of my own choosing.
Wow, that's powerful.
She just couldn't believe it. And I said to her, what part of that is not true?
Yeah.
And that is just, I feel better for saying it just now.
Can you say it again? I'm sure everybody else wants to hear it again.
Okay. I am the most powerful person in my life.
Wow.
And I have decided that this season will be one of huge personal growth, development, and fruitfulness, because all of that is a matter of my own choosing.
Wow. That's amazing.
And I have decided that. And I'm really conscious of the suffering that's out there and the difficulties and the trauma people are going through. But in my world, this is actually, in many ways, a wonderful time. And I want to say that, respectfully, I'm aware of the difficulties and praying, but I have decided that I'm going to mind this season. So when I look back, that's another one of my declarations. I won't read them all to you, but another one is, when I look back, I will be delighted about all I have achieved, which is going to be foundational for the future ahead. Mm-hmm. So, it's just filling ourselves with this kind of truth that will propel us. And there's an invitation from the Lord for the bride to step up to that kind of place, because that's a spiritual declaration, to come into intimacy and to step up, to be ready, not to run out of oil, but to stock up on our oil so that we will be ready for what's coming.
Amazing. That's brilliant. I love that. I love that because I'm a coach, and coaching's all about making people realize they have choices. And gosh, if we could just get everybody declaring that every day, that would be amazing, hey? Because it's so true. We do all have a choice of how we handle this season. It's really good, really powerful.
One of the,
I'm sure everybody probably wants to know all your other declarations now, but maybe we'll do another call and we'll get you to tell us about another one.
Okay. Well, I really learned about choice from you, Tina. I have to say that was one of the most impacting statements you ever made in the training. Was coaching brings us to choice. And it's bringing people back to choice. Sorry, you put it better than I just did. Bringing people back to choice, and that is a revelation to people a lot of the time.
Yeah, because I think a lot of what we do in the coaching is we take the blinders off and we get people out of boxes that we all put ourselves in boxes, don't we? And we all have these sort of limiting thoughts and beliefs. I was reading an article the other day, I put it on our page actually, about, and this is a secular article, about how we've got to move from either or thinking to paradox mindset, where we think, how do I do this and this and this and this? Because obviously people are working from home, they have fit-in homeschooling and all these different things. And I'm like, that's so beautiful, because that's exactly what my heart is, that, happens through the coaching process, is people's minds are opened up to the fact that they thought they had this choice and this choice, but actually they've got this choice, all of these choices. And we're opening up the parameters of what's possible, aren't we, through the process? And it's so godly, because God gave us free choice, and it's only fear, limited thinking, lies, limiting beliefs that stop it. It's like we have to sort of get through all of that to come back to a place of the full breadth of choice that God's actually given us. And I guess in this season, maybe we could even say that perhaps the choice is being given back to a lot of people in a way, by, the decks have been cleared in some ways. I mean, obviously there's some people who are really busy at home, some people who are not, but in terms of being able to really rethink what they want to come out of this as, and what they want to do and who they want to be, and how because it's like a big reset button, isn't it? Like a big giant reset button, which allows people to really think about how they want to design their life afterwards, and what they want to be the priorities. I don't know whether you have any thoughts on that.
Well, I just agree, Tina. You've put it so well, actually, of the Lord almost, of there being a clearing of the decks, and perhaps people will have more choice. I mean, I hadn't thought about it like that, but that's fabulous. And as you say, your purpose is not the job. So that remains the same. I mean, I'm going to want to preach and talk and share Jesus for as long as I have breath, regardless of what happens.
And on the phone, and to the delivery man, and everywhere.
Absolutely, exactly. So regardless of the circumstances, but of course the expression of that might change. And I guess this is really exciting because, as you said, for some people, why not take a risk when perhaps they've lost everything, or things, you know, their livelihoods won't be there in the same way. I mean, and a great opportunity for coaches then to come alongside and help people to maybe navigate that journey. And I'm already seeing that with this one particular coachee who is on pause, I guess, in terms of her business and the industry. But I'm just trying to provoke the kind of thinking, well, how could this season still be brilliant? You know, you don't know what's coming, but how could this season be so effective for maybe what's down the road? And she is an entrepreneur, so who knows what she'll do. Yeah. So yes, I think that's, you know, that's amazing.
So as we sort of bring this little chat to a close, and we'll meet again if you'd like to, what would you say as a coach that's coaching people through this season, all different types of people, what would be some key tips that you'd give people listening to this to really get through this pandemic and to live out their purpose and to do it well?
Well, one, I suppose, very practical tip is watch your thinking. Just keep an eye on that. One of the commitments I made to myself was I was going to be a carrier of hope in this season, in my thinking, in my speaking, and in my writing. But it needs to begin in the mind. So I guess what comes out of your mouth will have first begun in your head, in thoughts. So keeping an eye on the way you think, and possibly writing out some really just positive declarations. I think that's got to be a great tool for everybody, because, you know, I get fearful. We all can feel fear. So why not do that? A second really practical thing, I just limit the amount of news I watch a day. Not that I don't want to be aware, but we were never created to listen to bad news all the time, and certainly that's not God's plan, and we won't thrive if we do. So I would say limit that. In terms of purpose, of course, I would say as a coach, you know, if you've never looked or thought about life purpose, now is a great time to think perhaps more deeply. You know, reading, looking at material on the internet, and even looking for a coach, and just to think about beginning that journey of getting some help along the way. I would say to Christians, most definitely, get close to God. I mean, heaven it's like on a trumpet blast saying, come near to me. And even though we're all in lockdown a little bit, we could go through lockdown and still not have spent a lot more time with God and come out the same. But he really is calling for his bride to just get so close and intimate with him, because he wants to, my sense is he wants, as you beautifully put it with the reset, but he wants to launch people for, you know, the things that are coming into a great harvest. So let's just dig in deep with God. I'm not sure I quite answered the question about purpose.
No, I think you gave some great tips there. So let me just round off really with a bit of a plug. Well, obviously, Jennifer, you're available to coach people through purpose issues. Guys, coaching happens online like this, like a Zoom meeting like this. It's quite intimate really, isn't it? It's private. And typically we coach people maybe for 2 1-hour sessions a month. They get homework in between. Also, guys, if you are wanting to maybe go a bit deeper in this season, or any season, whenever you listen to this recording, then check out the Destiny Activator coaching programs that we run. They're available online. You can join one of them. They're facilitated live by some of our Destiny coaches, and they take you through a really awesome process of reflection, getting clear on your purpose, your passion, and actually listening to God, looking at the words that he's spoken to you, and coming up with a plan. So that's a really good program to think about taking. And really just, I guess your message, Jennifer, is take the time to be with God, take the time to think about it. And I think the overarching thing we've discussed is that this can be a season of opportunity.
Yeah.
Choosing something different, something new, something better, of coming into alignment, if we choose it to be, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, thank you so much.
Thank you, Tina.
Chat, and look forward to next time. Bless you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Bye.